Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. Verse 2. For gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight. Verse 3. For receiving instructions and prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair. Verse 4. For giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretions to the young. Verse 5. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. Verse 6. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. Verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but the fools despise wisdom and instructions. Verse 8. Listen, my son, to your father's instructions, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Verse 9. They are a garland to grace your head and a chains to adorn your neck. Verse 10. My son, if sinful men entice you, do not give it to them. Verse 11. If they say, come along with us, let's lie in wait for innocent's blood, let's ambush some harmless soul. Verse 12. Let's swallow them alive like a grave and a hole, like those who go down to the pit. Verse 13. We will get all sorts of valuable things and fill our houses with plunder. Verse 14. Cast lots with us, we will all share aloft. Verse 15. My son, do not go along with them, do not set foot on their paths. Verse 16. For their feet rush into evil, they are swift to bloodshed. Verse 17. How useless to spread a net where every bird can see it. Verse 18. These men lie in wait for their own blood, they ambush only themselves. Verse 19. Such are the paths of all who go after ill-gotten gain. It takes away the life of those who get it. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you. Verse 2. Turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding. Verse 3. Indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding. Verse 4. And if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure. Verse 5. Then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Verse 6. For the Lord gives wisdom, with his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Verse 7. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. Verse 8. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. Verse 9. Then you will understand what is right and just and fair, every good path. Verse 10. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Verse 11. Discretions will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Verse 12. Wisdom will save you from the ways of wicked men, from men whose words are perverse. Verse 13. Who have left the straight paths to walk in dark ways. Verse 14. Who delights in doing wrong and rejoice in the perverse sins of evil. Verse 15. Whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. Verse 16. Wisdom will save you also from the adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words. Verse 17. Who has left the partners of her youth and ignored the covenant she made before God. Verse 18. Surely her house leads down to death, and her paths to the spirits of the dead. Verse 19. None who go to her returns to attend the paths of life. Verse 20. Thus you will walk in the ways of the good and keep in the paths of the righteous. Verse 21. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. Verse 22. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the unfaithful will be turned from it. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1. My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart. Verse 2. For they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Verse 3. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them in the tablet of your heart. Verse 4. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and men. Verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Verse 6. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Verse 7. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. Verse 8. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Verse 9. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. Verse 10. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Verse 10. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Verse 11. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke. Verse 12. Because the Lord disciplines thus he loves, as a father the son he delights in. Verse 13. Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding. Verse 14. For she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. Verse 15. She is more precious than rubbish. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Verse 16. Long life is in her right hands, on her left hands are riches and honor. Verse 17. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. Verse 18. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed. Verse 19. By wisdom the Lord lays the earth foundations. By understanding he set the heavens in place. Verse 20. By his knowledge the watery depths were divided, and the clouds let drop the dew. Verse 21. My son, do not let wisdom and understanding out of your sight. Preserve sound judgment and discretion. Verse 22. They will be life for you, an ornament to grace your neck. Verse 23. Then you will go on your way in safety, and your foot will not stumble. Verse 24. When you lay down, you will not be afraid. When you lay down, your sleep will be sweet. Verse 25. Have no fear of sudden disaster, or of the ruins that overtakes the wicked. Verse 26. For the Lord will be at your side, and will keep your foot from being snared. Verse 27. Do not withhold goods from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act. Verse 28. Do not say to your neighbor, come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you, when you already have it with you. Verse 29. Do not plot harm against your neighbor, who lives trustfully near you. Verse 30. Do not accuse anyone for no reason, when they have done you no harm. Verse 31. Do not envy the violent, or choose any of their ways. Verse 32. For the Lord detests the perverse, but take the upright into his confidence. Verse 33. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but the blameless blessed are the home of righteous. Verse 34. The mock's proud mockers, but shields favor to the humble and oppressed. Verse 35. The wise inherit honor, but fools get only shame. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 1. Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. Verse 2. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. Verse 3. For I too was a son to my father, still tender and cherished by my mother. Verse 4. Then he taught me, and he said to me, take hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands, and you will live. Verse 5. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget my words or turn away from them. Verse 6. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Verse 7. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. Verse 8. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Embrace her, and she will honor you. Verse 9. She will give you a garland to grace your head, and present you with a glorious crown. Verse 10. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. Verse 10. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. Verse 11. I instruct you in the way of wisdom, and lead you along straight paths. Verse 12. When you walk, your step will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Verse 13. Hold on to instructions. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. Verse 14. Do not set foot on the path of the wicked, or walk in the ways of evildoer. Verse 15. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your way. Verse 16. For they cannot rest until they do evil. They are robbed or sleep till they make someone stumble. Verse 17. They eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. Verse 18. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining over bright year till the full lights of day. Verse 19. But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. Verse 20. My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ears to my words. Verse 21. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart. Verse 22. For they are life to those who find them, and health to one's whole body. Verse 23. Above all else, guard your hearts, for everything you do flows from it. Verse 24. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. Verse 25. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Verse 26. Give careful thoughts to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. 27. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Keep your foot from evil. Proverbs chapter 5. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ears to my words of insight. Verse 2. That you may maintain discretions, and your lips may preserve knowledge. Verse 3. For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. Verse 4. But in the end she is better as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. Verse 5. Her feet go down to death, her steps lead straight to the grave. Verse 6. She gives no thoughts to the way of life, her paths wander aimlessly, but she does not know it. Verse 7. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Do not turn aside from what I say. Verse 8. Keep to a path far from her. Do not go near the door of her house. Verse 9. Lest you lose your honor, to others and your dignity to one who is cruel. Verse 10. Lay stranger fests on your wealth, and your toil enrich the house of the others. Verse 11. At the end of your life you will groan, when your flesh and body are spent. Verse 12. You will say, how I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction. Verse 13. I would not obey my teachers or turns my ear to my instructors. Verse 14. And I was soon in serious trouble in the assembly of God's people. Verse 15. Drink water from your own cisterns, running water from your own well. Verse 16. Should your spring overflow in the streets, your streams of waters in the public squares? Verse 17. Let them be yours alone, never to be shared with strangers. Verse 18. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth. Verse 19. A loving dew, a graceful dare. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. Verse 20. Why, my son, be intoxicated with another man's wife? Why embrace the bosoms of the wayward woman? Verse 21. For your ways are in full view of the Lord, and He examines all your paths. Verse 22. The evil deeds of the wicked ensnare them, the cords of their sins hold them fast. Verse 23. For lack of discipline they will die, led astray by their own great folly.